Tell me the hog can't take some hits, huh?
I'm telling you. I isolated both hydraulic systems. As soon as I was hit, the right system went to 0, and all the lights in the world came on. Missile went off, and I thought it was a SAM going by, so I started kicking flares out the back. And,
good show.
Thank you, Robbie. Wish I'd have kept it on the runway for you, but the tire blew, and I just couldn't keep it on.
You know, when you see a missile come at you, and you're in a 4-ship, you wonder who it's locked onto, and yeah, I guess you see a lot going on, and you react, and AAA going off near you, it's scary, and then it's tough sometimes. Sometimes they'll have to take you off of the schedule and say, well, why don't you go do this on the ground for a while, give you a day off, just prop your feet up and relax. But there's not much they can do. We're glad it was a short war. You know, it was, I don't know how else to keep you from getting burned out other than give you the day off or two. We did have guys that, you know, just said, well, you hold your hand up just like in the old football games, I need out, coach, and pretty much we let it go with that.
We will return in a moment to Weekday Wings on
A-10s work near, but generally not directly alongside advancing Army units. Low-level search and destroy missions were handled primarily by the Army's fearsome Apache gunships. The massive assault kept Iraqi ground forces from maneuvering. If they tried, they were pounded by tanks, artillery, and air power.
Roger, we got a whole bunch of guys throwing AK-47s up here and down here. Does that mean anything? I'll shoot them, shoot their equipment. Okay, roger that. They're just, we're going to back away from them a little bit. Our gun is out of ammo at this time. Okay, everything seems to be no threat at all. Okay, 065, 1,800 meters. Things have been dragging away a bunch. This is,
The air attacks cut enemy soldiers off from food and water. Constant bombing left thousands in shock. Soon, the coalition army found itself overwhelmed by surrendering troops. By the end of the war, more than 86,000 Iraqis were in custody.
When I talked to you all before, and you asked me what we were going to do if we had to go to war, and I told you we were going to kick ass, and that's exactly what we did.
General H. Norman Schwarzkopf, commander of coalition forces, expected the ground phase of the war would last 3 weeks. In fact, it took just 100 hours to recapture Kuwait and neutralize the Iraqi army. But ground forces moved so quickly and the speed of combat was so fast that coalition attackers mistook some of their own invading army for retreating Iraqi soldiers. At least 11 Americans were killed and 15 wounded from air-to-ground friendly fire.
We had some friendly fire issues, and they are disturbing. There's no doubt about it. We had an A-10 hit a Marine vehicle. I believe we had a Marines rolled in on a Marine column. We had an A-10 hit 2 British vehicles, or 2 A-10s. And we had a number of incidents ground to ground. Now, taken in total, this number is relatively very, very small. It's minute. But the problem is, nowadays, with the lethality of modern airplanes, if you have one incident, it results in 7 or 8 fatalities, where in past wars, such an incident might reflect a damaged vehicle or a wounded person. So we have to work this issue very, very hard.
Roger, the reason I'm asking is need to find out if this is a friendly or not. Yeah.
They put in a lot of restrictions to try to protect against the friendly fire episodes. They put a lot of restrictions on anything that was going to do air-to-ground in close proximity to the troops. We had trained years of working with the Army, but the Army basically with their attack helicopters took care of most of the threats in their general vicinity. We worked further north, anywhere from 3 to 5 miles. We were able to watch the tanks roll across the border and watch them attack different Iraqi positions, but normally they'd want us away from their actual sphere of influence. It was like a blitzkrieg all over again with our tanks rolling through at 40, 50 miles an hour, shooting on the run.
Over the course of 43 days, more than 2,600 aircraft flew 110,000 sorties that crushed Iraq's defenses and left its troops battle-weary and anxious to surrender. Laser-guided weapons let us drop fewer bombs for greater effect than in past wars. But it should not be forgotten that the ultimate result of a massive military offensive is massive loss of life. The chief difference between this war and others is that the balance of casualties was wildly uneven. Coalition forces lost roughly 200 soldiers in combat. The Iraqi army lost at least 100,000. Here, Americans bury an Iraqi soldier killed during Operation Desert Storm.
One of the things from Desert Storm that bothers me deeply, they call it the Nintendo War. The idea that it's nothing against my computer against your bunker, or my bomb against your truck. It loses sight of the fact that there's great suffering and death involved in war. And we must never use war as a solution to anything other than as a last resort. So if we learn anything from Desert Storm, I hope it is that we don't want war, that war doesn't work, and that a would-be aggressor in the world will think twice before he engages in war. I hope that on our side, that our people don't think that war is some sort of a bloodless, mechanical thing. It is a terrible, terrible thing, and we must be very, very careful of how we enter into war and what we expect to get out of it.
Was the Gulf War a successful campaign to liberate a powerless nation from the clutches of a fascist invader? Or was it a violent dispute over control of the world's oil supply? Was the war a watershed event that saw the United Nations act as one to tame a powerful rogue state? Were diplomatic sanctions given enough time to work? These questions are still being debated, and perhaps years will pass before the Gulf War's historical significance is decided. But it is certain that the conflict was a turning point in the history of warfare. For the first time, a massive round-the-clock strategic air campaign was directly responsible for a decisive victory over a well-defended enemy. After 80 years, air power fulfilled its deadly potential.
We will return in a moment to Weekday Wings on the Discovery Channel. We now return to Weekday Wings on the Discovery Channel.
Hey, Benny, give me a quick rep on that tank. You can tell we've got such a high tech to figure out how much gas we got. We go beat on it with our knuckles. Fuel flow at 140 gallons. Just depends what happens.
The Strategic Air Command deployed 256 KC-135 tankers and 46 KC-10 tankers during the Gulf War. Tankers are flying gas stations. Air refueling gives gas-guzzling fighters and bombers the ability to stay in the air. This was crucial in the Gulf War, where some strike aircraft had to fly 1,000 miles to their targets, then 1,000 miles home again. Every aircraft from every service, as well as many coalition planes, used U.S. Air Force tankers.
Position there, I forget the name of it, where it was a common tanker position. Pretty much day or night, you can go to this O'Malley. You can go to this spot and find airborne fuel. Go there, top off, bring it back to the ship, and basically have a lot of gas airborne for returning strikers.
The KC-10 Externder first flew in 1980. The Air Force has 59 in its inventory. The KC-10 was based on the commercial DC-10, and it combines the task of tanker and cargo carrier in one body. It can service all U.S. military aircraft and many NATO planes. The KC-135 Stratotanker looks like a Boeing 707, but it was designed to carry heavy fuel loads. It first flew in 1956. 633 are now in service. The Stratotanker is closely identified with another, even longer-serving SAC airplane, the B-52 Stratofortress. Like the B-52, the KC-135 has been updated and redesigned over the years. The Air Force expects it will continue flying well into the next century.
And we're latched. He's got a pair coming in on the right. That good shot there. There's an empty hose up on the lead now. Not sure how much we heard earlier. Going down a little bit.
One common problem most military pilots have faced is the phenomenon of vertigo. Vertigo often hits you when you're trying to hook up to a tanker during a rainstorm in pitch black weather. Your body tells you that your plane is crooked and you're going to crash. Your instruments say you're fine. It takes a great deal of discipline to trust the machine, not your senses.
Is this your pre or post? This is a post and a pre.
Refueling gets to be second nature. Every guy that flew fighters over there probably did 200 plus hookups during the war. We met tankers about 70 miles from our departure point, and we refueled with the tankers all the way down through the Gulf and into our destination over in the Emirates. But shoot, 10, maybe 8 refuelings, quite a few.
Especially when you load up the A6 with 10,000 pounds of ordnance, 10 1,000-pound bombs. There's a lot of drag out there, and you can suck down an enormous amount of gas. And it was always a little comforting to know that there was a tanker up there and you could hit it once you came out of bad guy country.
Because you got an awful lot of airplanes floating around the area. Upset ready. How do they know which one goes first?
You know, the unsung heroes in this war are the tankers, because they fill the skies of Saudi Arabia and Iraq, and I might add Iraq. Yes, there were tankers over Iraq refueling fighters and bombers.
During Operation Desert Storm, tankers flew approximately 15,500 sorties, refueled 46,000 aircraft, and offloaded 110 million gallons of fuel.
I'm all right here on it, yeah.
You see, it's really, if it goes right, it's a well-orchestrated thing of beauty, because as receivers get their gas, they're pulling out and breaking away to the left, and they're not 50 feet away from the tanker, and the next ones are coming in. Number 2 tank and the lead tank now. I've got one more set to receive, and it'll be go home. That's a big wave up there. It's too bad we can't see it's Miller time.
Coming up, it's the ultimate do-it-yourself show. Learn the tricks of the trade. Professional home repair made easy on Gimme Shelter. Then go on the hunt. From chilly Alaska to sweltering Africa, nature's adventures continue on Wild Discovery.